Hello everyone and happy STAMPtember. I'm Yanis Makula, and in this video I'm sharing the next STAMPtember collaboration set from Simon Says Stamp in Penny Black called Bright and Merry. Here's a look at this stamp set. It's a big 6x8 clear stamp set with gorgeous images. We have a stunning Christmas tree, and then we have the birds sitting on a branch. We also have several sentiments included in this set, and the sentiments read from our home to yours, the warmth of good friends, Merry Christmas wishes, to you and yours, bright and merry. There are also coordinating dies available on the Simon Says Stamp website. I don't have the dies on hand, so I can't show them to you, but you can check them out on the website if you want. I wanted to create a simple card, a simple Christmas card using this beautiful Christmas tree. I grabbed a panel of surf blue cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. This is cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and I have it inside my MISTI stamping tool. My initial idea was to heat emboss the tree and then the longer skinny sentiment below the tree for the front of my card, but as you can see, that did not really work out as the tree is pretty much the size of an A2 card. And if you decide to have the tree on the front of your card, there really is no room on the background to add the sentiment, unless you want to add it as another layer, which is what I did to finish this card. You can also make a larger card using the stamp set. A 5x7 card would look fantastic, and it would fit that design with the Christmas tree and the sentiment below it. I wanted to do heat embossing, so I treated my paper with an anti-static powder tool. I made sure to really go over my paper. And next, I inked up the stamp using clear embossing ink. I closed the lid of my MISTI and I pressed down with my hand to transfer the ink onto the paper. And here's a look at the result. You probably can't see much right now because it's very tone on tone, but as soon as I add embossing powder, this is the Simon Says Stamp Antique Gold embossing powder. It's my favorite color of embossing powder for Christmas cards. You can instantly see this design come to life. But wait until I heat set the powder and melt it. Okay, I'm going to grab my heat tool. I'm going to let it run for a minute or two to make sure it's nice and hot. That you want to make sure to do that. And once it's hot, go ahead and bring it to the paper and keep it moving to melt the embossing powder. This is a large image, so this is going to take a few seconds to get it all nice and melted. I love the look of embossing powder. I love the look of embossed images on my Christmas cards, as there's just nothing quite like it. It's so, so pretty. With the heat embossing done, I'm going to let the powder cool for a few seconds. Make sure to do that because I've ruined quite a few images like that by touching the hot embossing powder and smearing it on my paper. So make sure you let it cool. And then once it's cool, we can add some ink blending. I'm using a single color here, Night. This is the Simon Says Stamp Pawsitively saturated ink, and I really love how dark and vibrant this color is. So I'm going to ink blend everything around the tree, but keep the center of the tree the original initial color. This is going to create a beautiful glow effect on my card. I'm darkening the edges, but I'm keeping the center nice and light. If you want, you can even take this one step further and add some black ink blending around the very edges of my panel. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to do blue, so that's what I did. With the ink blending done, I'm next using a paper towel and I'm removing ink that is sitting on top of my embossing powder. Embossing powder resists the ink, so when you do ink blending over the embossed image, you will end up having ink sit on top of it. Okay, with that done, I want to add some shimmer to the background. I have a couple of sprays here from my stash. I have some from Ranger. These are Distress Mica sprays. I also have one from Hero Arts. It was the opaque white spray. And I'm going to add a little bit of shimmer, add a little bit of goodness and magic to this background. I ended up using the Tarnished Brass Mica spray and giving this background a very generous spritz. You can see I have quite a lot of that spray here. I'm using that paper towel once again, and I'm going to soak up any of the excess spray from the background. I do want to have a lot of this shimmer around the tree, but I don't want to have too much of it where the tree actually is. I don't want the shimmer to overpower my tree. So here is what this looks. Now, whenever you do things like that, whenever you work with sprays, it's important to remember when to stop. For this background, I thought about adding some white spray, white shimmer over it like snow. And here you can see how I sprayed the background with the opaque white spray from Hero Art. And that took it a bit too far. So just remember that it's less is more. And sometimes it's best to add less to have a good result. I ended up completely messing up and ruining this background. And I redid it. I redid the whole thing, but I skipped spraying the opaque white onto the background because that was just too much. If you want to add snow onto your background, I would suggest you maybe use a dry brush and lightly splatter the snow onto the background using a brush. That way you will have a lot more control over how much white you're adding and where you're adding it. Okay, so here's my new background, all nice and redone. I placed it on my Glimmer Hot Foil system and I let it sit there for a couple of minutes to help it dry because it was pretty wet from all of that ink blending and all of that spraying. Whenever you do heat embossing and then ink blending and spraying onto your paper will warp. And of course, mine did. Now to fix that, I have a neat trick up my sleeve that I use every single time. I like to glue 3 or maybe sometimes even 4 panels of scrap cardstock together to help me flatten the panel. So here I did just that. I cut 4 panels that measure 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I glued 3 of them together. I trimmed them down just a hair smaller than my panel. I added them from the back of my panel, and that helped flatten that warped panel quite a lot. Now, I also have a card base here. This is an A2 indigo card base. The ink blending on the front panel, on the sea glass panel, now kind of matches that indigo color. So I think this card base color is going to be perfect for this card. All I need to do now is just create a sentiment. I decided to do more heat embossing and heat emboss the Bright and Merry sentiment using the Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White embossing powder on red cardstock and cut it out using a circle die. We have a very monochromatic color combination going on here at this time, and I felt like I need to bring some more color. I love the blue and gold together, but I felt like this needed a little pop of color, and heat embossing this sentiment on the red cardstock gave me that perfect pop of color that I needed. The sentiment is super fine. I really love how fine the lines are. But whenever you work with fine sentiments like that, you need to make sure that you use a very fine embossing powder. So the Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail Embossing Powder is simply perfect. Make sure you don't press too hard when you stamp your image so that, you don't squish any of the lines and you have a nice and crisp result. I used a circle die. I cut that out into a circle, and all we have to do now is just assemble our card. So here I used Barely Art glue to adhere my panel, embossed panel, onto the indigo card base. I'm going to set some magnets on top and let the glue dry. Next, I have black foam adhesive squares added from the back of my sentiment panel. I'm going to remove the backer pieces from those and foam mount the sentiment over my Christmas tree slightly to the right. I don't want it to be centered. And finally, we need to decorate the tree. That's the best part. I'm using these splash drops from Simon Says Stamp. I like the clear drops from this pack, and I'm going to add a whole bunch of clear ornaments onto my Christmas tree. I'm starting with the larger ornaments. You decorate a paper tree or a tree on your card in the same way as you would decorate a real Christmas tree. You start with larger ornaments, and then you add smaller ornaments. So here I started with the larger drops, and once I was happy, I added the smaller drops to finish decorating my tree. And here's a look at our card, all nice and finished, featuring the gorgeous Bright and Merry stamp set from Simon Says Stamp in Penny Black. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. There are links to all of the products that I used in the video description below. Love you all and happy STAMPtember.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.